Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, joined as always by Jamie Uyeyama. This is a West Coast edition. I am on the West Coast, as always. Jamie joins me from Vancouver. Jamie, how's it going? How's West Coast living, Pacific time zone? How's it treating you? It's all
It's
sunny there. It's amazing.
it is. It is. Yeah. Although it's a little bit overcast right now, but it has been really nice here. It's been great, I love it here. I'm originally from here, so yeah, good to be on this time. It's weird though because I'm so used to um Eastern time in terms of like when things start and when things go and stuff. So that it's
Yeah.
always like I'm never fully back on West Coast time. So
Mhm.
that's something to get used to. But yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.
All right, so we've got a lot to talk about today. There's like a lot going on. We've got some injury stuff to talk about, not just with Jadarian Price, but Matt was able to Matt. I think was John Bryce too. Was John
Yep.
involved in that? Yeah. So Matt and John Bryce were able to talk to Coach Freeman about injuries and that sort of things. We'll touch on that. We've got a big commitment announcement slate coming up starting today with four-star wide receiver Cam Williams. He's going to be deciding between Notre Dame and Michigan and a few other schools. So we will touch on that. We'll touch on everyone else coming on. Coming up, should be a really, really positive next few days for Notre Dame on the recruiting trail. So, but let's start out with I guess the main injury news, which Jadarian Price went down with torn Achilles during summer workouts. I think you guys kind of talked about it on Power Hour this week. Just, I think we should approach it from how Notre Dame can kind of replace the what they could get out of him in terms of explosiveness and that sort of thing. How they go about, weathering the first, I guess, month of the season with just three backs, right? Because you're waiting for Logan Diggs to come back. So, what are some of the things Notre Dame can do to kind of mitigate the loss from Jadarian Price?
Well, I think they're going to be fine with the three backs. I don't think that's going to be a big issue. Um, I think I mean, obviously, like everybody's got to stay healthy, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's pretty obvious, but I mean, anything can happen there, right? Like, you just never know. I don't think they need to move somebody into the backfield. I don't see that as something like as a desperation thing. I think most Notre Dame fans remember the 2015 season. They had to play with three backs basically that entire season.
you're talking about like someone switching positions, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I don't see that happening. I don't see that being a thing. Like one, you're taking somebody that is probably going to be like, everyone's like, what about Tariq Bracy or something? Like people just throw these things out. It's like, no, you're not going to just throw somebody who played there or whatever. You can't obviously take a receiver, because they have enough of depth issues there.
Right,
So,
right.
um, you can't really do anything, right? Unless like, could there be a DB that moved to receiver or something like that? And think maybe, but I don't see any of those guys moving to running back. So I think you just have to be smart about what you're managing and stuff, and in what you're doing in terms of tackling. But like literally anything could happen. Freak stuff happens all the time. It's
Yeah.
football, right? So um, obviously, like Jadarian Price, no one would have assumed that he was going to like tear his Achilles, right? So um, I think you just have to be careful. You just have to, you don't want to be in a situation where you're counting on Jabron Payne to be like a big part of the offense, right? Like you do everything you can to get him ready or whatever, right? But you don't want to be in a situation where he's going to have to play a lot. So
Mhm.
really, what it is that. Tyree's going to be able to handle everything that you can throw at him in terms of what to do with the offense and playing on third down and blitz pickup and all that kind of stuff. Estemi is the guy who's really got to just like, they need him to absolutely, and like I saw some people in the comments of a thing I wrote this week that like, I think Estemi's going to have a monster season. He's going to have like 15 plus touchdowns. I mean, that would be great, but I mean, he's not going to play that much unless he just shows that like he's understands blitz pickup, all these kind of things. Obviously, he's physical enough to do it, but it's like, can he do all these things? So that's really going to be the main thing. Is Estemi really has to be on point in like every area, because he's one snap away from like being the number one back now, right? Yeah. So that's kind of how you have to approach it, and then you have to just hope that Payne can come in and really just hit the ground running, and not overwork them. I mean, they're not going to like anyone who follows college football knows they don't tackle to the ground very often anymore in camp anyway. So it's not going to be anything like that. It just, injuries can happen, but it's something that they should be able to manage from that part of it. I think, like the bigger question is, Price, I think, based on what we saw in the spring and everything we heard about him, he was going to play this year, and he was going to play a role. And I mean, how big that role was going to be, we don't know, but I would have guessed probably like, if he had kept going with it and had the same kind of camp that he had in fall, I mean, he's probably going to be at least 5 to 10 touches, and so how do you replace those touches? What are you going to do with those, right? How are you going to find that explosiveness? Because you saw about like just throwing a swing to him, what that can do, right? So, I mean, some of that is going to be like maybe Tyree has a bit heavier workload, but you can't have him have too heavy a workload because he's already going to, be the number one guy, likely the number one guy. So I think what you have to do is you have to look at the receivers and what you can do there and how to utilize those guys. And it becomes even more important for Lorenzo Styles, hopefully Avery Davis, if he's healthy, and we got some news that he's, probably going to be, maybe ready for the beginning of camp. But the main thing is he's ready for the beginning of the season. And obviously I think Braden Lenzy becomes even more important of a player because, you might have to use him more in the jet sweep stuff and all that kind of stuff because, like you need something there, some kind of explosive, some guy you can turn like a short pass into a long game. And Lenzy has shown that before, but it's really kind of been like since 2019 that we really saw it. So, hopefully there's some buzz out of camp that's what we're kind of seeing out of Lenzy.
Yeah. It's just like, and it's just brutal for Price. Like everyone, like you play the game and it's like when you're playing, you're practicing, like, then things are happening. But for it to happen during workouts when you're just trying to get fit, like ready for like, that's terrible. Like that is just the worst thing. And I feel so bad for him, like there's assumed risk in everything, and everything you do. And especially in the game, but like today, like I go work out, right? And I'm just doing a workout just like him. And it's like, I don't expect to have a catastrophic injury like that. And so it's unfortunate that this had to happen to him. Not even really in his sport. And obviously we feel real bad for him. As far as, because you figure, okay, the Ohio State game, right? You do everything you can to get through that game. Whatever you need to do to win it, you do it, right? If it takes Chris Tyree taking 30 carries, whatever. But after that, you have the 3 games in September where it's like, okay, we can really work some guys into things. And in my mind, the Price thing was going into October and November. That's when we're really going to see his workload like kind of increase, right?
Yeah, that's what I think for most freshmen. I think that's pretty fair.
And so that's gonna be Estime now. And the thing that I think that people, need to keep in mind is Estime can show himself to be a really good player this year, right? And it's not to say that we're not like throwing cold water on Estime the player. It's just really hard to go from I'm not really a part of the rotation at all to I am going to have a huge season, right? Like what Kyron did,
it's like so rare.
Doesn't happen, and that's
why no one. That's why no one predicted it. Like no one would have predicted it,
right? And that's why Kyron is special. That's why Kyron is kind of an outlier there. It's very hard to do. So I don't want people to like put even a ton of pressure expectation on Estime being like 1,000-yard back or whatever. Like maybe, right? Like no one knows. But I think if he came in and was like a 10, 12 carry guy and, 5-6 yards of carry, that's great, and that's a good role for him. I don't want people to think that like, oh, he's going to be the number one back or whatever. Like I do think Tyree is going to have to be the one, right? He's an upperclassman now. Maybe it's not like carries wise, but it's like on the field, being counted on in key situations as a pass receiver, as a pass blocker. There's so much there, and so there's going to be a lot of pressure on him now, especially until Logan Diggs comes back. And that's we can segue to kind of overall injury notes, because when Matt and John Bryce got to talk to Marcus Freeman, he gave updates on various injuries. So we'll start Jarrett Patterson, 100% full go. So he's going to be ready to go. They're hoping, speaking of Logan Diggs, they're hoping for kind of the end of September, early October, come back for him. I think for me, my hope is that he starts to ramp up, maybe middle September, and then he's ready to kind of play and contribute in a meaningful way around the BYU game and that's the early October. Anything before that just seems like a little too soon, right? Like he needs to get in football shape. He needs to get used to getting hit and that sort of thing at the running back position. Let's see. Avery Davis was, I want to talk to Matt about this a little bit more for the context for which Freeman said it, because it was a little bit unclear. Did you have a view on the Avery Davis comments? Is like not 100% running full speed. How much football stuff is he doing? Did you have a view on that?
That was, I think, that was a little unclear to me too. But the fact that he said that his goal is to be ready for the beginning of camp, I think to me is a positive sign, because if you think about where, his ACL was late in the year.
Yeah.
Right.
So November.
So it was late in the year. So I think, even just see him moving around just even a little bit in the spring, to me was like kind of shocking. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Right. So, I would think, if you can get a couple weeks into camp and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, then you can ramp it up with him, that would be, to me, perfect. Like they should be careful with that. They should be careful with that, especially because they can't afford to lose him, right? They can't afford to do that. So I really just think that I would guess I would guess he's probably doing a lot, but he's probably on a pitch count. Like he's probably doing that would just be my assumption based on those comments.
So just thinking, like you were talking about how important he is, and I was thinking about his role. Like if anyone was going to, I don't want to say move positions, but get snaps at running back from a wide receiver position, it would be Avery Davis. And it got me thinking again, they are pushing Jeremiah Love on like this Deebo Samuel role. And Avery Davis seems like, hey, if you've got some ideas about how to do that, then maybe we should try that stuff out with Avery Davis, because he seems to have kind of that body type, right? Kind of a thicker guy, quick guy. You could put him out in the slot. Obviously, he's a slot receiver. He played running back earlier in his career, and I think he's a lot more physically mature.
He's ex-quarterback, ran from the backfield a ton.
Yeah. So hugely important player. That's going to be a big one for Notre Dame. Joe Wilkins is later. I mean, with the foot injury like that, I feel like that's going to be.
That was not surprising to me. I was like, yeah.
I mean, because that's a spring injury, right? Like, so that's going to be a little bit for him. And in my opinion, for me, it's going to be a struggle for him to have a role, kind of on the team, barring injury, right? Because, and I think you've been on teams before or if you've been on a team, right, and you've seen guys get hurt, and I know that I've seen this situation too. Once the season starts,
it's hard to work those guys back
in.
Yeah,
like once you're out of camp and the season starts, people have their rules, and it's hard to break into
unless a guy is already so established. So if it was Isaiah Foskey, well, yeah, right. He's going to come,
or like Kyle Hamilton or something.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, right. But it's like it's not that easy. And here's the only scenario really where he would play, I think, a big role is that it would have to be bad news for Notre Dame, because that means either Colsey didn't take the step that you wanted him to, Tobias Merriweather's not ready,
or someone's hurt.
Somebody's hurt, whatever, right? And then you're like, oh, now we need you, Joe. Like we need you, right? And I think he'll play and be depth and whatever, but to anyone to project that he would have any kind of significant contribution, it would have to be way late. Like it would have, and things would kind of have to break in that way. So that's the way I kind of see it with him. Which is just, I feel for the guy because, he doesn't have much left, right, in terms of the eligibility. So, technically he can come back for another year, and I would guess that they would probably ask him back if he's whatever, especially because he's like a guy who's like one of the best work ethics on the team, and everyone likes him. But also too, he's like a smart guy. He's going to get his degree, and maybe want to move on, maybe look for another opportunity. So I don't know. We'll see. But I don't see him. Don't pencil him in as being like a guy that is going to play a big role for Notre Dame. Things kind of have to break that way.
Yeah, and this is to speak nothing of his actual ability, because
nothing to do with him.
If he had
just
been
a circumstance.
If he had been in the spring and everything, he'd be in contention to start. He
might have been. We might have been at the end of spring. We might have been saying, "Wow, Joe Wilkins. I guess he's the guy in the boundary." Like that could have happened. And it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how. When you have an injury like that, there's not much you can do with it.
Yeah, once the team starts building and that kind of just gets moving, if you're stagnant, then you're just kind of passed up, and that's an unfortunate part of the game, on a perfect example of that is Botelho last year, where he wasn't like a big camp participant for whatever reason, whatever was going on with him, and he didn't really get it. The first few games,
very hard to get back in the mix. And
then Justin Adamalola just kind of was set, and that's it, right? And you got a niche role. So that's kind of how we see that sort of thing happen. Were there any other injured guys that I missed?
Those were the big ones. Let me just go through it real quick here to see if
so I know it was obviously Patterson, Diggs, Davis, Wilkins, and then Price.
I think those were the big ones. I don't know.
Yeah. There was like Jason Adamalola, like he's
Jason. The guys that everybody
was
everyone that was assumed, they were like, yep, 100%, whatever. Yep. So those were the ones that were kind of like iffy. And I think the ones that people were thinking about the most were obviously, Davis, Wilkins, because of the need, Diggs because of the need, obviously, and Patterson because of the importance of him, right? So the fact that he's 100% right now, and he's probably working out, that's awesome. That's significant.
Good. All right, so let's move on to some recruiting stuff. Cam Williams is going to make his commitment announcement today. I think the irishsportsdaily.com staff is feeling positive about Notre Dame's position here. We haven't really broken down Cam Williams, the player, on this show, mostly because he's a 2024 guy, and we've been focused on the 2023 class. But this is someone that I know that you're excited about, and I know that you saw him at the Irish Invasion camp, and were really impressed with him. So why don't you talk about a little bit more about what you saw from him at the camp, and then we'll throw on some tape and we'll look at that stuff.
Yeah, well, he was someone that I liked before the camp. And then when I saw him in person, and obviously there were some good receivers at the camp, obviously some guys with offers, some guys who earned offers.
Yeah.
And I would say that out of the guys there, he was the guy who was the best receiver there. He was the best receiver there. The guy who just kind of had it all. Where you were like, he looked like he had another gear running next to him. When he ran the 40, like, I'm not sure what his time was, but it was like, 4 fast. Like, it was fast. He was very fast, and he just looked good in everything he did. And, strong hands, looked good on one-on-ones, no matter who he was going against guys with offers, like burning them. And just, look like a guy who was going to be a dude. And everything about him I liked, and it only made me like him more after, kind of revisiting his film too. So, I'm not to Connor Nepper said the 4.47 time. Like, Matt actually asked him yesterday what his time was. He wasn't sure. So I have no idea if that's for that reported time. Like, I don't know if that is a reported time, but I mean, Cam Williams didn't know his time, so I don't know. But whatever it was, he was fast. He looked faster than everybody. So that's pretty much all that matters. And it's one of those things too, right? Like, you can't make up for like time speed and then actually seeing the speed. It's different, right? And I thought, right away too, he looked like a guy who was going to be like, this guy's got all the traits to be like a number one receiver in college football.
Give me a comp, because I have a comp. I thought of it last night. I'm really excited about it. So I want to hear yours. What do you have a comp for?
Well, my comp is Kevin Austin.
Okay.
That's my comp. Yeah. So I really, really like Kevin. And I understand that Kevin Austin, isn't a guy who, didn't have the career that you wanted him to have in at Notre Dame. But I think you put all that aside and you look at the kind of peaks of Kevin Austin and what he is and what he can do physically. And that's why he's so like, that's what I see with Cam Williams, like a guy who's like going to be a big receiver, but has like kind of small guy traits and some of the stuff that he can do getting in and out of his breaks. The strong hands, obviously. There were things technically that I think Austin needed to work on. That I think Williams, obviously he's going to have a ton of time to work on it too. But that's what I see, like a guy who you can line up on the boundary, but line up all over the place too, and really excel.
All right. I like Kevin Austin's good. The thing about Kevin Austin is I feel like he was such a, he wasn't like a smooth player. Like when he was running, it's like there was kind of like a ton of effort. Like Cam Williams to me is very effortless runner. He's kind of cruising. He's accelerating at kind of a smooth. There's a smoothness to him, and that reminded me of Greg Jennings, the former Packer receiver. Yeah, it's because he. Like Greg Jennings, like not great size, but good size.
Yeah.
Like not a burner, but like constantly getting behind the defense. Really good route runner. The same kind of smoothness, right? Like where you're always afraid of that acceleration deep, and then he can cut off real quick and cut a route short. And now he's got you. Greg Jennings happens to be one of my favorite receivers. Like I just really liked his game. So and he obviously had a great career with the Packers. I didn't like scout Greg Jennings as a college player, high school player, or anything. So I'm just like his
just looking at him and like just how he moves and I can totally see it.
Pro kind of comp. So that's who I'm thinking about. And so as we put that up, we'll put up some Cam Williams highlights. And Jamie, you could just kind of talk through it. We can talk through what we're looking at here.
Sure. Yeah, he's up at the top there, just in the bunch there, and I mean, you can see just, I mean, the other guys look like it's they're at a different speed.
Yeah,
and he's just running by him, right? And I mean, you can just see that this is obviously just all speed too. Just the acceleration and him just taking it, and that's what I want to see more from guys. Great adjustment here too, but just that speed after the catch. And then here working out of the slot and just easy burst out of the break, right? Easy burst out of the break. And a lot of this stuff too, like, I mean, first of all, I don't know if this is one thing that I noticed too, not a lot of great balls by his quarterback, and whatever, like everyone's got a different level of quarterback, but like there were a bunch of plays where I was like, oh, if this guy's hitting stride here, this is like going 60 to the crib, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the kind of thing that I noticed too. But also too, one of the things you get to see with that is you see him, adjust to kind of like not great balls and make those catches, because not every ball is going to be a perfect ball. And a lot of times too, there's going to be like a rusher in your face where a guy's getting the ball out to arm angle, and that's where the ball is going to be thrown. But yeah, great. I mean, obviously body control by the sideline here, him tracking this one. You just kind of see a little bit of everything with the film. And that's what I always kind of want to see. And honestly too, just also, you want to see the best plays early on. And the fact you see him, break those ones early, like there's nothing worse than seeing a guy run like an 8-yard slant on the first play of his highlight tape, right? And obviously you see a lot more than that too. But I think he's got great yards after catch ability here. Like obviously that should have been a touchdown. Right. Comes back to the ball. Just a lot of just like natural receiver stuff that you get to see. And just beating guys like just quick out of the breaks, quick out of the slant.
Yeah, so like when I watch him, like he's running a lot of routes that you'll see on the tree, and some of them like aren't super clean or anything. And it's like important to keep in mind, like he's a 2024 recruit, so this is like sophomore film, right? So like you're out here dominating, the varsity competition as a sophomore. He's still gonna grow. Like I think his speed, I think his acceleration is only going to get better. Because he's such an easy, fluid runner, right?
Yeah.
His speed is just kind of natural, and the stronger he gets, the greater his like on a play like that right there, like in the next 2 years, he will score on that play because he will be able to accelerate a lot stronger than he is, as a sophomore, right? Like you can just kind of tell those things. That's what excites me. And just like his overall game is going to improve as well, right? And he's already an advanced player, right? So you can see the physical traits. Like I see the physical, ability to run, like even that, just like a little bit of burst acceleration, like that to me, like you can just kind of see it. So it's a very exciting, like he's an exciting player. It would be an exciting pickup for Notre Dame. To get the 2024 class started. Like you said, he's I think he's an Illinois product. That's right?
Yes, he is.
So,
and I think it's huge whenever there's a kid. I think one of the things that kind of got talked about, and I'm mentioning this in 6 Thoughts for tomorrow too, but when there was Caleb Brown and Tyler Morris, who were 2, pretty high level, wide receiver recruits from Illinois, Chicago area. And Neither of those guys end up at Notre Dame. They end up at Ohio State and Michigan. Obviously, you don't want to see either of that. And then it was one of those things, and I remember writing this, like, it's not a big deal if they land Tobias Merriweather and CJ Williams.
Right.
Well, they didn't land. They landed Tobias Merriweather, but they didn't land CJ Williams. So, I think when Notre Dame is really rolling, they land those kids, right? They land those kids. They land at least one of Caleb Brown and Tyler Morris, right? And they land a guy like Cam Williams, right? Because those are guys that are in your neighborhood, the guys that are close by. So you have that advantage already, right? You already have the built-in advantage. They're probably surrounded by a bunch of people who are Notre Dame fans, all that kind of stuff, right? Like there's all of that there, and you want to be able to win with those guys, and those guys to be not automatics, like you have to work for them, but like that you're already in those are guys you want to be able to, like, when you're looking at the class beforehand, say like, oh, that so-and-so top guys from Illinois, like, yeah, we're getting those guys. Right. And I think Notre Dame, it has done that to a fair extent under Brian Kelly. But Brown and Morris were an example of where they didn't. Right. And especially at receiver, where it was like an important position of need. So I think that made just no matter where Williams is from is a good pickup. But I think from being from Illinois, too, it makes it even more significant.
Yeah. I'm going to throw up a couple comps that people had in the chat. I feel like Cam reminds me of Allen Robinson. Not bad.
I think not bad. Good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I can get down with that. Connor had Kevin Stefferson.
I don't see that.
So here's the thing. And this is where the sophomore year film matters, because I don't remember Stefferson film as a sophomore. I remember his senior year film. Stefferson was a tremendous route runner. I mean, he was very good. I mean, he knew how to like attack leverage. He knew how to shift gears. He knew how to stem. He knew how to like shift, like vary his speed at like the top of the route and that sort of thing. I loved Kevin Stefferson, and obviously he came in to college, hit the ground running. So it's hard to say, because I don't know what Cam Williams is going to look like in 2 years, but
I think the guy that will remind Notre Dame fans of Kevin Stefferson is Mylan Graham, who was another guy who was at Irish Invasion, who is a Fort Wayne guy that Notre Dame is, I think, in a good spot with. He earned an offer at the camp, and he's been blowing up. He got an Ohio State offer recently. He earned an offer at Ohio State camp and a Michigan camp. He's going to be a very big time guy. But he's the same kind of, like, just the feet are fantastic. And I think because if you look at Stefferson, the guy that if you're just looking at a college football comp of like, I mean, I'm not saying he was as good as Devontae Smith, but like the similarities in terms of like their feet in and out of breaks, just a route runner, like kind of like the skinny little, like smooth, but then still like deceptively explosive. That was Stefferson and Devontae Smith, certainly. And that is Mylan Graham is way more of that guy. So he's someone that I think when you watch him, especially in person, and you definitely see some of his camp coverage and stuff, and you watch his sophomore film too, like he's a guy that I think Notre Dame fans get to know. Mylan Graham, he's going to be a dude.
Yeah. I think it should be pointed out. It was at least observed by me. I don't know that there's been reporting on this, but this Cam Williams situation really escalated once CJ Carr jumped in the class.
For sure.
I think that was a very important development. And I would probably say the same, like Mylan Graham as well. I think Notre Dame's a serious player for them now. Obviously Ryan Wingo, he's kind of popped onto the scene, and CJ Carr was recruiting him as well. So, it's good to land 5-star quarterbacks is something I've read before. So let's transition now to I guess what is today, Wednesday. So Cam Williams, let's finish him up. What do you know what time he's announcing today?
I had 8 Eastern.
8 Eastern, so 5 Pacific. Just about 6
2.5
hours.
hours.
Two
Or
and a
no,
half. Oh yeah, that's right.
no, 2.5. No,
3 hours.
three and
About
3.5 hours.
about 3.5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone tune into that. It's gonna be a good thing, I think. All right, let's move on to Charles Jagusah, the 4-star, top 50, top 100 offensive lineman who will be announcing tomorrow. It's going to be a Notre Dame Michigan battle there as well. And I think, again, like Cam Williams, I think the Irish Sports Daily staff is feeling good about Notre Dame's position there. Do you think that this will be, should he commit to Notre Dame, do you think this will be the close to the offensive line class?
I think it most likely, like, I know we kind of talked about it when we were predicting the class last week, that I just think Freeling, I think they'll still go after him, but I just don't think they'll be. I just think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. In a way, too, it also hurts you when you've had you already got 5 guys in the class. So I mean, how hard are they going to push for it? They really. I mean, he's still going to decide in the fall. Maybe can they get him back on campus for another game? I don't know. I'm just going to assume that Jagusah is the end of it. I mean, and if that's the end, it's a pretty good capper.
Yeah, and I noticed that Sam Pendleton put out a tweet yesterday, kind of the whole like come join us thing for Charles Jagusah, and I mean, maybe it was an accident, right? Like I don't really know, but the way he worded it was like finish the class, like the final piece kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I maybe it's nothing, maybe it's something. It certainly seems like you're gonna have 5, and they'll still look at Freeling, and it's somewhat related too. But like with the top 4 for cornerback recruit Josiah Wagner came out, Notre Dame wasn't in it. And it's kind of related to Freeling, I think, where I think Notre Dame feels good about where they are with Micah Bell and Christian Gray. And we'll talk about those guys coming up. But I think Notre Dame is in a position where it's like, are we going to make room for Freeling? And are we going to make room for Micah Tease? And can we make room for Samuel Mpemba? And can we make room for Caleb Down? Like, you got to make room for a lot of guys, right? Like Jeremiah Love, right? And I think with Wagner, unless you love him, it's like we can't make room for 8 extra people, right? When we're filling out the class. So, it seems to me that like if you feel good about Bell and Gray, you can't really push for Wagner, because especially if he wants to decide soon, you can't really push for Wagner, because then that kind of eliminates someone like Monroe Freeling or someone like Micah Tease or something like that. And you may like those guys better. So that's kind of how I see it. But, to me, do you feel like Charles Jagusah, should he commit, do you feel like he is kind of the best? Well, I guess I'll put it another way. Where do you put him as far as a prospect amongst the 5 that would be in the class at that point?
Like I think to me, he's definitely a top 100 level kid. And I think his potential is to be like, I know that I think On3 has him like really, really high, like top 10 in the country, which is to me insane if you watch his film. Like I like him a lot, but I just don't think he's not there. The film doesn't show it. And some of that, I guess, is projecting because he's like a state championship wrestler. And you can see some of the body movement and some of some of the off-season stuff he's done. But to me, on film, he doesn't move like that yet. It hasn't shown on the football field yet. So I want to see that on the football field before I'm projecting that. To me, he's definitely the highest, that he'd be the number 1 O-line guy that they signed in this class if they get him, out of the remaining guys. But I think when you're looking at like Elijah Page, Absher, those guys, I would say, and then Otting too, I think, whatever. And Otting and Pendleton are good prospects too. Like they're all good like baseline, good, really good prospects with a chance to be like really high ceilings too. And Page, I would say Page, maybe has a high ceiling out of all the guys, but I think that Jagusah like is the guy that I would have now, and I think can get a lot better too.
Okay. And look at you could feel good about whoever you want to feel good about, right? Like if you like the guys, then you like the guys. I have the worst, like of all of them, or all the positions, I have like kind of the worst feel for offensive line. And so that's why you're so invaluable to me personally, because you can kind of let me know how these guys are. I think amongst the five, like it's funny, like Notre Dame fans will quibble about rankings and that sort of thing. And they've been doing it for, like, they did it during the Jeff Quinn era too, and I always thought that was kind of funny. But like they quibble about rankings and all those things, and like you look at like USC, if they had a class like this, like it would be like the best class they've had in years, like so long. Same like Michigan, Clemson would kill for a class like this. Like they're like their big kind of person would be Monroe Freeling, right? And Notre Dame is obviously after him, and he would be our sixth guy. So it's a really good class. It's a really good situation. So Charles Jagusah, he is committing on Thursday. He'll announce his commitment. Once again, Irish Sports Daily feels really good about that. And with that, we'll move on to the Friday announcement, which is Micah Bell. He will be he'll be a July 1st, right? And as far as Micah Bell, we feel really good about him as well. No other official visits. He took the Notre Dame official. I feel like that writing's on the wall, right? I mean, It's like, Micah Bell's he's only taking the one official.
I mean, I guess he could do like some kind of Hogan NWO thing where he pulls something out, but like it would have to be something like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident he's going to Notre Dame.
Yeah. I just want to say hello to Jackie Hale, just stopping by to say go Bucks. See you soon. Hey man, I appreciate it. Don't he's not have a bad attitude. He's just saying hi. So hello to you. And we will see you soon. And I think Connor has it right. Prepare for the trenches, and that's how it's going to have to be, because Notre Dame, that's how they're going to have to win the game, in the trenches. Luckily, the front seven and the offensive line are supposed to be strengths for Notre Dame. So will be a great game. Will be a great kind of atmosphere and everything. So thanks to Jackie for stopping in. And I wanted to put this up from Justin Knox, confirmed 10-4, 100 meters for Bell. That's
not slow.
Moving. And not just that, sub 21 200, right? 20.89. Again, that is moving. That is fat. Like there is no comp on the Notre Dame roster to that, right? Like that is several tenths faster than, Braden Lenzy, several tenths faster. I mean, that's a full second faster than like Tobias Merriweather. I mean, this is a different kind of speed for Bell. Really exciting player. I mean, just really exciting, like, prospect to have, kind of on the team. So that'll be a great thing for Notre Dame should they land him. And I guess we'll close up the corners later, because we've got them or Christian Gray coming up next. But so we're going to have a day off, which is unfortunate. I think there's going to be a day off of commitment announcements.
How dare they?
How dare they? I mean, I guess it's good for you, right? If they're going to, if there's going to be a bunch of things, because you got to write up everything. But on the 3rd, so that's going to be on Sunday, Rico Flores, 4-star wide receiver, is going to make his announcement. And again, didn't take the visit to Georgia. So his final 3 were Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State. Didn't end up taking the visit to Georgia. Didn't end up taking the visit to Ohio State. Looks like Ohio State filled up. Obviously, to Notre Dame's great, I guess to their benefit, right? And it looked like, honestly, and I don't know if I said this on this show last week, but I think, in my opinion, I think Notre Dame had kind of made it to the point where they were going to be tough to beat regardless of what Ohio State was doing. Like, obviously, he was a big fan of Ohio State for the longest time. It just seemed to me that they gave the Notre Dame push that these coaches can give. And once they do that and a player, kind of falls in love with the university and the team and everything and all his teammates, it just, at that point, it gets to where it's like they've got you. And it's hard to kind of break away from that. What is your take on Rico Flores, the player? I have another comp for him that I'm really excited about. I'll tell you what, I'll put it to you right now, and then you can respond to this. I have like a Torrey Hunter Jr. kind of vibe to Rico Flores. Where are you at with it?
You know what? I think Torrey Hunter Jr. was a little bit smoother to me than Rico Flores.
Okay.
And this could be me. I mean, I am someone that Torrey Hunter Jr. to me was, man, I wish that guy was healthy, because I think he was going to be like one of the filthiest receivers at Notre Dame, of like definitely of the Brian Kelly era. And he was going to be special. If he broke his leg right before he came, and then took a while to get back. And then after that too, it was, a bit of a mess, right? Like, with obviously the horrific, concussion he suffered too. And that really set him back. Right. So, I think, I don't know. I'm not sure on my comp for Flores yet, but I like Flores as a prospect. I think he's got really great build-up speed, tracks the ball really well. He separates to the catch point. I kind of want to just see a little bit more suddenness from him. I know like Mike Frank really likes him as a route runner, but there's just something missing for me there. I think he's just like, I think he needs a little bit of work there. I don't see as much polish there as Mike does. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's kind of true. I definitely agree about the suddenness piece. And that's something I didn't really see from Hunter Jr. That's why I kind of did that. I think it was like the smooth speed. It's like you kind of said, like there's just like the he had speed. I think they had smooth speed without having that like elite acceleration. That's kind of what I see from Flores. The route running part, I think it's hard because he's been an outside guy the whole time, and it seems like the offense that they're in, like they're just not running like a bunch of sophisticated stuff. Like if they need to get him into the slot to where it's like he's really working on things. I feel like anyone who plays the slot is going to have to be like, they really have to work on their route.
I mean, yeah, you absolutely have to be a master at your craft.
Right,
you just have to be, right?
And I think he's less that for his high school, which is kind of understandable, right? When you have,
yeah, I mean, you're going to run a ton of vertical routes. Right,
exactly.
And I mean, most high schools that's what they're going to do, because you can just run by most corners, right?
The thing I like about him though is, and there's a little bit, like, I think a little bit of Reman McKnight too, where like he's a receiver, right? So like Ronan Hannafin, right? Tremendous athlete, right? Tremendous. Honestly, he might be the best athlete in the class, period. Braylon James is another terrific athlete, right? Like a very, very good hurdler, which, begs a lot of athleticism, just like sprinting and jumping over hurdles and that sort of thing. But like Ronan Hannafin, like when we say like Rico Flores, like he's not, he doesn't show the polish that like you might want. It's one thing to say that, but like he is kind of like worlds above where Hannafin is.
Yeah. Hannafin is like, he's right now, I would say he is mostly raw athlete.
Yeah. And
but
that's
you can
fine.
see, yeah, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think whatever, I mean, a lot of it is how hard you're going to work on it once you get into school.
Yeah.
There are very few guys that come into college with polish, with the kind of polish that you want to see, where they're going to go out and be great. And I think like, I think even if you look at, so a guy like Will Fuller, who was, obviously just fast and was kind of seen as a speed guy, but I think by the end of the time he was at Notre Dame, and if you look at how he was kind of viewed, as an NFL draft prospect, they were like, yeah, this guy, he's an absolutely like an elite route runner, right? So, and that's not who he was. He became that guy, right? But he had the traits to develop into that. And I think that's mostly what you're looking for. And I think like a guy like Hannafin is a perfect example of a guy like, man, I think he's only kind of like scratching the surface of what he's going to be as a football player in general.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the goal in my mind is, so like Rico Flores, right? Like a good, not like a true X, in my opinion. Like you'd put him to the field, but maybe because your field is also like Braylon James, right? So let's say Great House X, Braylon James field, and it's like, oh, what are we going to do with Flores? Let's teach him the slot, and now he's your number 3. So you like, and that's what depth is, and that's what recruiting is, right? You have a number 2, who now you're playing as a number 3. They're better than the 3 corners or whoever that you're going up against for the opponent. And that's like, I always say, like I talk a lot about one problem too many. That's where the defense gets hurt. And that's what Notre Dame has kind of been lacking just in general, is like they have the 1 to 2 guys, right? And it's like, that's fine, right? Like Chase Claypool, Miles Boykin, right? There are problems. They're not like super elite guys like Clemson. It's not like Clemson's never seen guys like Miles Boykin and Chase Claypool, right? They could be on the same field together for sure, right? But you need, like, now the Rico Flores is your number 3, and he's playing in the slot. And then you throw in Ronan Hannafin. It's like, I don't know if we have like that many answers to the problems that Notre Dame is putting out there. And that's like what you see from LSU, right? Where it's like you have Jamar Chase, and you have Terrace Marshall, and then you have Justin Jefferson.
That's exactly what that's the ideal.
Many problems. Like at some point, it's just like we are vulnerable to too many things. And then you have, the tight end, right? Like you have Eli Raridan running up the seam. It's just creates so many problems for the defense. So it's like, to me, when you look at the wide receiver class that is forming, this is what you need. It's just a bunch of top 200, top 100 type guys, and then you have the athlete that Ronan Hannafin is, and now you're starting to present like a ton of problems defensively. And so Rico Flores, right? Like that's going to be on Sunday, and we look forward to that. And to wrap up the 5-day stretch is going to be Christian Gray, the top 100 corner out of St. Louis, Missouri. We again feel really good about where Notre Dame stands with him. And if you're keeping track, Notre Dame feels good about all the players we've talked about today. So potential to have a great, a great 5-day stretch or 5-6-day stretch here, Notre Dame recruiting. Tell me about the combo of Micah Bell and Christian Gray and what that would mean.
Well, I think Gray is the most important guy out of all these guys that we've talking about. One, because of the position that he's playing. So Gray and Bell, the combination of them too. I just really think if you look at where Notre Dame has recruited at corner, and they had a good class in the previous class, and they really like what they're seeing out of Jaden Mickey so far. They like what they're seeing out of Jaden Bellamy. Benjamin Morrison's on campus now. Marcus Freeman didn't really say much about him, but just said he heard good things, whatever, right? So we'll see what happens there. But you like that class, but it doesn't matter if you don't follow it up, because and that's the one thing is that Notre Dame has kind of always done, is they've had one good class, but then they haven't followed it up. It's taken like 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden some corners are playing before they should, or maybe they don't have guys, and Notre Dame has rarely had guys that are ready to play early at corner, right? And they just haven't recruited to that level. That's just a fact, right? And or they've landed guys where there's been something missing, like speed or size or whatnot or whatever. And I mean, I think you're going to get that with. I mean, obviously, we talked about Micah Bell's speed, and he's just. I think the one thing you question about him is size, and he has to put on weight and all that. But and he's not the biggest. To me, he's listed at 5'11". To me, he looks a little shorter than that, but I'm not sure. But he plays physical, gets in the body of guys. And I mean, obviously, he's an elite athlete, like just a next level athlete. So you add that, and you get a guy who can play the field, possibly play the nickel, you know, and then you have Gray, the boundary guy, it's just an absolute necessity to get a guy who can play man coverage, who can play press coverage, do that, be physical, find the football in phase, do these kind of things, have good instincts, be physical as a tackler, like all those boxes that you need to do. And it's like a top 100 recruit on top of that. Like it's just absolutely critical that they land these two guys. And I mean, yeah, I know there's other like more like exciting things, you know, everyone gets more excited about the quarterback or one of the things, but really, like, to me, Notre Dame has always had really, really good defenses. Like basically since like Mike Bell came in 2017, they've had good defenses to close to great, never quite great, but close to great. And really what has been probably lacking and on a lot of it. So I think was either the combination of pass rush and what they had at corner. So 2018, I think when you had Pride and Love at corner, they didn't really have the depth there. They didn't really have a true nickel.
Yeah.
And then obviously when Love went down in that 2018 Clemson game, you saw kind of what happened there. And the pass rush was getting better, but it wasn't quite where it was in the 2019 season, right? Like that was where there, and the corner play wasn't as good that 2019 season. And then like last year, if you look at like, say, like the raw numbers against the pass, like, you know, EPA per pass, like Notre Dame was like close, pretty much elite when you look at that. But a lot of that had to do with the pass rush. And when they had to match up against better receivers, they struggled, right? So you want to be able to match up. And I think you're getting two guys who can match up. And to me, that's very exciting.
And you just look at the secondary class as a whole. I mean, you have two top 150 corners, a top 100 safety, and another top 200 safety. I mean, when has Notre Dame had that? I don't. It's been a while. Yeah. Yeah. The four of them, right? Like this, the quartet. So, you know, it's a very exciting time for Notre Dame. So let's just to recap. Okay. So, tonight, Cam Williams, tomorrow, Charles Jagusah, Sunday, Rico Flores. Oh, Friday, Micah Bell. Sunday, Rico Flores. Monday, Christian Gray. We're going to want to all tune into that. Like, again, Notre Dame feels good about it. The staff feels good about it. Obviously, surprises happen, right? We're not guaranteeing anything, but it's just like that's kind of what the situation is. And with that, I think we can close the show on a high note. Everyone, in about 3 hours here, we're going to get the Cam Williams announcement. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to irsportsdaily.com. Always good content coming out. Jamie, tomorrow is Thursday, so you're gonna have your Thursday thoughts coming out. We're all very excited to hear about that. I got a little something brewing. We might be getting a Notre Dame current commit on the show. So I don't know if that'll be live or what, but we'll see. I'm working on it. So everyone stay tuned for that. Again, you're going to want to subscribe because you want to know when that's coming up. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We will talk to you very, very soon.